All right, it's time for Yogi and the Beachman. Hi, I'm Jim the Yogi.
And I'm Rick Beach, the Beachman.
We're two Michigan transplants now living in Southwest Florida.
In fact, we're cousins born in 1964, just a month apart.
I like to meditate.
And I like to play bass in a band.
I'm into chanting Om.
And I'm into throwing down some classic rock.
But together, we're on a mission
to promote people that are helping other people.
We want to make the world a better place.
One conversation at a time.
So sit back,
turn up the volume,
and get ready to laugh.
Because we like to have fun
while we spread the love.
Interviewing lovely people, yes, we have fun.
Welcome back to Yogi and the Beachman. Today we are with Kimberly Flear. She's a certified transformational coach, and she does EFT tapping. So we're excited to talk to her today. Kimberly, welcome to the show. We're happy to have you.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Hi, Kim.
Hi.
And Kim, I'm Jim the Yogi.
And I'm Rick Beach, the Beachman.
Pleasure to meet you both.
You too.
Pleasure to meet you. Yeah. So, Kimberly, where are you coming to us from today?
I'm checking in I live on the Sunshine Coast in British Columbia, Canada, and have done for coming on to about 3.5 years now.
And I thought we were on the Sunshine Coast.
I know, I've never heard BC is referred to that before.
It's a little bit misleading, especially this time of year. Being in the rainforest and all, we don't tend to see much sunshine until about late spring, and then that's all we get.
Just in the spring?
October. Spring and summer is very beautiful. Yeah.
Nice.
But because we're south facing, and I believe that's where they got their name, is the direction in which we face, and the sunsets are incredible. And maybe somebody was just praying for sun one day and thought, well, I'll name this the Sunshine Coast in hopes that we possibly get more sun.
They were trying to manifest. I like it.
Yeah, me too.
And we're on the west coast of Florida, so we have some of the most beautiful beaches in the world within an hour drive of where we're sitting right now. And it's the sunsets here are spectacular also.
We definitely live in some of the most beautiful parts. I love it.
Yeah.
I went up to Ketchikan, Alaska about 15, 18 years ago.
Yeah.
And I knew that was part of the rainforest. So you're in that whole rainforest area up there.
I am, yeah. A lot of people I don't think a lot of people realize that this is part of the rainforest, but it certainly is. It's very damp this time of year. We don't get a lot of the Canadian snow that a lot of people assume that all Canada is covered in snow this time of year and -20. It's quite a different climate than a lot of other parts of Canada.
Yeah, when you think rainforest, you don't think of northern Canada or western Canada.
No, but it's full of the landscape, and the native plants will definitely allow you to see that it's rainforest and how lush and how green and how beautiful it is. Yeah,
it is,
and how much it
beautiful up
rains. Yeah.
I spent 3-4 months in Tacoma, Washington, and there was a little park there. I can't remember the name of it right now, but it was like right on the Puget Sound, and it had a tropical rainforest there. And I was like, and I was just amazed with, you don't think of palm trees growing in Washington State and tropical plants. I was just really blown away.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Or the city of Vancouver has palm trees.
Really?
Now they're brought in, of course,
Yeah.
but they survive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's amazing just what grows there. It's so beautiful.
So beautiful. I love it.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, sure. That's a pretty big question. I am, wow. Okay, so I am in recovery. I think this is one of what kind of highlights my life the most is the transformation that's taken place from drug and alcohol use. I'm about 4.5 years. And I think that's been the biggest transformation in my life. And so I love to highlight that part to start. I've not only turned it into a lifestyle, but also, as you know, a purpose and a career path. Now, my life started out pretty wobbly, as a young child. I left home pretty young and taught myself likely everything that I know. As many of us in recovery, I grew up in a background of, trauma and adversity, and my home wasn't necessarily a place of loving care for a young child. And so at the age of 15, I actually got got kicked out and hit the road, and the restaurant industry took me in. So that's how my story goes for about 25 years. I worked in restaurants from all over Canada. I traveled to New Zealand. I spent about 5 years over there. I worked in Australia. I was a server, I was a bartender, a sommelier, and a high functioning addict. It not only the industry, but the use of drugs and alcohol just fed me everything I needed, from the love and care I didn't get, the attention I didn't get, the lifestyle, was perfect for me. It was wild, it was flavorful, it was fun. Until, late 30s, the party was over, and, I was still doing cocaine for breakfast. And I thought, well, this can't be right. I couldn't
So that
keep.
was your drug of choice was cocaine?
Yeah, ideally I would get anything, it could be a buffet and I would have said yes, but that's really what took me out, took all my money, and, 90 pounds soaking wet. So, yeah, I couldn't keep a job. I couldn't keep a relationship or a dollar in the bank. Things were just crumbling. I lost my father, who also struggled severely with alcohol use. And so he passed at the age of 59. And things just kept getting darker and darker. Essentially, I hit my bottom. Everyone's bottom is different, but I certainly hit my bottom. And so I took the necessary steps and asked for help. And I think that was the most beautiful gift I could give myself. Now, I didn't ask for help and then everything turned into lollipops and rainbows. It took me quite a while to get to where I am, but also to finally say enough is enough. I started working with a spiritual coach who started introducing me to energetic practices like EFT tapping, meditation, breath work, those kinds of practices that would elevate my frequency, that would expand kind of my heart space, and also allow me to uncover the blocks that were keeping me stuck in these habitual patterns, keeping me stuck in the destructive behaviors. So I worked with her for probably a good 3 years before I actually put the bottle down for good. And really what happened in that process was exactly what I had explained. Like, I was kind of elevating my frequency and expanding my being, and the trauma that was stuck in my nervous system and in my energy field was being uncovered and falling away. And so when I would use, it became so uncomfortable to a point of depression. There was no fun in it anymore, because I was here and the alcohol and drugs were down here on a frequency level. So they weren't matching anymore. And so I think she likely knew that this was going to happen. And so she was very patient with me throughout the process. And September of 2020, I'm actually one of those individuals who chose to get sober during COVID as opposed to the other way. I know a lot of people struggled to stay on the wagon or to embark on a journey of sobriety and wellness during the years of 2020 and 2021 and into 2022. It was really hard on society and on families. And I chose to get sober. And so I took the leap September 1st, 2020. And you'll love this, Jim. I set a challenge, a 30-day yoga challenge. That's what I did. I knew I had to fill that emptiness with something else. And so I hit the mat instead of the bottle. And I did a 30-day yoga challenge with myself. So I would come home after work. I removed myself from the restaurant industry for a little while and started working for a local fisherman, driving seafood around. So my job entitled driving, which kept me off the sauce, obviously a little bit more. And so after work, I would hit the yoga mat, and I completed that 30-day challenge. And when I finished that 30 days, I had never gone that long without a substance or a drink. And that was just momentum for me. It was like the snowball effect. Well, if I've gone this long, let's do another 30 days. Let's do another 30 days. And then I was living at the time in the downtown east side of Vancouver. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but kind of ground zero for homelessness and drug use. And I had an apartment. I wasn't living on the streets, but energetically, again, it wasn't aligning with the healing I was doing, and I knew I needed to leave. So 2 months after getting sober, I left the downtown core and I moved to a beautiful, quiet little place in the suburbs of North Vancouver where I spent 10 months just really healing and doing more practices like yoga and really embodying the meditation. And again, we were in the middle of COVID and I was really struggling to maintain sobriety, but also to find my place in the world. I didn't feel I fit in. I was getting triggered everywhere I went. And so I removed myself and I went on this road trip through the Rocky Mountains and did a lot of self-reflection. And I came back and I realized that I needed some change, like some big change. And obviously the lifestyle I lived moving around, I probably lived in about 16 places in 25 years. So I was very adaptable to change. And so I ended up finding an Airstream trailer, a 1971 refurbished Airstream trailer that was parked up in the woods here on the Sunshine Coast, which is about a 40-minute ferry ride from Vancouver. And it was in September, so I was just a year sober. And I came over here and I fell in love. And so I sold everything I owned. If it didn't fit in my Mini Cooper, it wasn't coming with me. I quit my job and I moved into a trailer in the woods for 6 months. And I spent that 6 months not working. I really purged and reflected and healed, and it was a true test to my soul. From September to April, I lived, with frozen pipes, snowstorms, incredible windstorms surrounded by 90-foot fir trees. I had mice. I'd wake up in the morning and see my breath at 6 degrees. And I just felt like it was something I needed to do, maybe to prove myself of survival or of strength and of courage. I can't really even articulate what that experience was like for me, apart from just incredibly life-changing.
Yeah, there's so much to gain from solitude. And I don't think a lot of people ever experience solitude, to be alone, be with yourself, and to be with your own thoughts and no distractions. Because I know it's when we're with our own thoughts that we realize the type of person we are, who we are, and then we get a chance to say, do I like myself? Do I not like myself? Do I need to make changes about myself and the way of being? So that's huge. That's great
It
that you
was
did
huge.
that.
Yeah, it was a pivotal part in my journey. I don't think I would be here and living the experience I am if I hadn't taken that leap of faith and gone ahead and done that. And I think you're totally spot on. I think that that's a missing piece in a lot of people's journey, is looking at thyself, intentionally isolating. I'm not, there is unhealthy isolation, of course, but intentionally doing it to get to know oneself and the parts of oneself that may not be so pretty, that
Yeah.
may be dark. And I mean, it's called shadow work, right? And then
Yes.
lovingly accepting those parts and integrating those parts of ourselves without judgment or without shame.
Yeah,
So
we learned about shadow work about a month ago with another podcaster that we had on.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
I wasn't aware of that at all.
Yeah.
I until that a month or so back, and every time we talk about a different subject, like I'm sure we're gonna, I had to Google your EFT tapping. I don't want to get sidetracked from your story, but and that's just another thing I'm really looking forward to hearing on how this stuff integrated. You took it into your life to help you on this journey. But what really seems cool to me is that you probably in a relatively short period of time, it seems like you really had a lot of self-reflection, and then you made this decision to go isolate yourself and have, I mean, that's a big sacrifice. I don't think I would be able to do what you just explained out in the woods with frozen pipes and mice and waking up and feeling your breath. Now we live in South Florida, and I am a total wuss if it gets under 60 degrees. I'm cold. But that, wow, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah. I was thinking if you were on the right show, you probably could have made money doing that.
yeah, I had a few close friends suggest to document the experience and to go online, but I feel that would have taken away from really the intention behind what I was doing. When I got sober from alcohol and drugs, I also got sober from social media for quite a few years. Again, I perceive things through the lens of energy and energetic cords. And I didn't want to bring in more than what I was trying to cut and release, as opposed to bring in more. So yeah, I took, I definitely took a quite a different route than a lot of people. I didn't resonate with AA or NA. There is a beautiful place for it. It builds community, and I understand that it's a beautiful supportive place for people to go, especially in early recovery, because it allows you to understand that you're not alone, and it gives you a chance to articulate your story. But for myself, it was a solo journey. This is something I had to do for myself. And essentially I took all of the energy and all of everything I gave my addiction and my wild and crazy life that I lived for those 25 years, I put that into healing. I took that and I just went internal with it. And it wasn't pretty. This is why people don't do the work, is because what's inside sometimes can be scary and not be, what we thought. But what's on the other side is freedom and love and honesty. And that's my core values now. That's what I embody in my personal life and my professional life. So
at what point did you make the decision to say, hey, I've went through this experience, I've got a new head on my shoulders, I want to give it away, I want to help?
Yeah.
When did that decision happen?
I think throughout the experience in the trailer, as I began to embody these practices and get to know myself and my purpose on this planet, it became quite clear that there was something greater for me to do than go back to work in restaurants or go back to a job that just paid the bills. Like I felt like there was a reason for all this pain and a pathway to turn it into purpose. I didn't know what that looked like at the time. I just knew that something was going to unfold. And so in April, so 6 months later, I had decided that I was ready to live in a structure again and out of the trailer. And so it's kind of a rat race on the Sunshine Coast for housing. It's a very popular place to live. So I was actually struggling to find a place. And it was right up until almost till my lease was up with the trailer that I actually couldn't find a home. And I thought, well, maybe I'm meant to stay in the trailer. I definitely follow guidance and I allow things to unfold as they're naturally meant to. I don't try and push or resist or control. And so I ended up picking up a new lease for the trailer, thinking possibly there's more healing I'm meant to do. And I didn't sign the lease. It's interesting, the day that I picked it up, and I had a big, beautiful bathtub in the trailer that I tapped into the river for my water, and I ran it through the cabin next to me to the hot water tank. It was just magical. And anyways, and that day I came out of the bath and I went online, I went on Craigslist, which I'm sure you're familiar with. And there was a cabin, this beautiful 400 square foot cabin that had just been posted an hour before. And it had been something I was dreaming of. I felt called to live near the water and in the trees. There was something, but I couldn't find it before this moment. And there it was. And so I ended up meeting the landlord, and we, needless to say, we had a lot of synergies. And 2 weeks later, I was now living in this beautiful custom 400 square foot log cabin right on the water, tucked in the trees. And so I, out of the trailer, then started getting my life back to normality, right? So I ended up taking a job to put money back in the bank because I hadn't been working. And then I started exploring schools and training and wondering what that would look like. And again, a lot of synchronicities just started coming on my path. I started meeting the right people. I started doing a bit of research and knowing kind of what it is I wanted to do. And so I went to school for recovery coaching and life coaching. So I got 2 certificates, one through a Canadian organization called Still Here. And then I did one through the Net Institute, which is actually in Florida, through the IAPRC, which is the International Association of Professional Recovery Coaches. And I also did their life coaching credential. And then I realized I wanted to be a facilitator, and that kind of came on my path. And so I also received my certification in facilitating. And so I just started kind of putting tools, more educational and training tools rather than the self-care and self-help tools that I had been kind of stacking up over the years. I thought now is time to actually start to learn and get back into a classroom. And that was really incredible to start to meet people and be back in school. It was something I hadn't done in a long time, or done sober for that matter. So yeah, I hope that answers kind of a long-winded answer to your question of how I got to kind of here. And obviously embodying the practices that I had gained over the years, I knew I wanted to make part of my practice. Now, there is two components to what I do professionally, because I had spent so many years in the restaurant industry and I had struggled immensely and I had witnessed so many other people doing the same thing. I did start an organization called Last Call Coaching, where I help the industry with mental health and addiction awareness and training. I lost a friend of mine in 2021 who was also an industry veteran, and that was kind of sparked something inside of me, that there's kind of a gap in that system of care. But then there was also this other side of me that loved these modalities like meditation and yoga and EFT tapping and breath work. And I thought, well, I can't close the door on one. And so I opened both doors. And so I almost look at it as one being the masculine and one being the feminine. You know, the mental health and addiction side with the restaurant industry is really kind of tapping into the masculine side of my work. And then these modalities, such as I just listed, are more kind of feeding the feminine side of my work. And so finding that balance has been really, yeah, really incredible, actually. Kind of, I didn't see it that way. And because I wasn't sure if I was just going to take the one path or the other path, but now finding the balance in the two is bringing me such joy.
Yeah, that's excellent. I've got a question for you. What is coaching, the recovery coaching work like? Give us an idea how that goes.
Yeah, of course. So working with individuals who are in sobriety, sober curious, wanting to change their relationship with alcohol. It can also be family members who may have someone in their family dynamic that is struggling. And so it's really the coach approach, which is very forward moving. So uncovering goals, uncovering blocks and things, and then finding a pathway, like a trajectory, like a roadmap that can help move them in that direction. Using tools like motivational interviewing is really valuable when coaching someone, because essentially we all have the answers within ourselves. And so when I'm coaching someone,
I want to stop you right there. What is that,
sure,
motivational interviewing?
So to summarize, I mean, it's quite vast and quite complex, but it's really about using a skill of asking questions that are very open-ended to allow the client to actually come up with the answers themselves. So when I'm having conversations or when I'm coaching someone, I'm able to hear things that they may not say, or feel things that they may not be articulating. And the way I'm able to reflect it back allows them to see things in that different perspective.
Can you give me an example?
Ooh, sure. So somebody may not see their block, so they may not be able to identify their limiting beliefs, but they're coming up in when they're speaking, they may be speaking in terms of ways that are disempowering. So I would flip it on its head and turn it more into empowering, right? So it's just reframing what they're saying in a different context.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's hard to just pull from examples without actually having a someone in front of me to coach. But yeah, it's really about reflection, open-ended questions. So when I'm asking these questions, it allows them to kind of go, oh, I didn't see it that way, or they'll respond in an answer that gives them the answers they were looking for without me telling. I'm not an advice giver. unless it's being asked, of course. But really, when motivational interviewing, it's like a dance between coach and client that can really uncover things that aren't necessarily being spoken to on surface level.
Sure. Now you hit rock bottom, and that's what sent you looking for help. Other people, like I know some people that are kind of struggling with alcohol right now, but what are you looking to uncover when you're working with them? If they haven't hit rock bottom and they aren't really sure why they're drinking so much, they're just doing it. It's become a habitual pattern. What are you looking to uncover to make them make that change without hitting rock bottom?
What are they burying with the use of substances or alcohol? There's some kind of, I follow the teachings of Dr. Gabor Mate. I really enjoy his teachings of looking at addiction, or as drug and alcohol use doesn't even have to be full-blown addiction, but what are you escaping from? What are you numbing? There's some component there that doesn't want to be looked at, felt, or acknowledged. And by using alcohol, it essentially is suppressing that.
Okay. That makes perfect sense to me.
And that could be something. Oh, sorry. I just want to acknowledge that it can be something that isn't even present in today's life. Like, we carry with us so much from childhood, so much unprocessed emotions and feelings, right? Our nervous system when we're young are like sponges. And so even something as simple as being bullied at school, if it wasn't felt through and received and held in a container of love, that can still be manifesting into use of alcohol, drugs. I mean, social media, gambling, sex, they're all coping mechanisms for those unprocessed feelings.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, Rick, I cut you off there.
No, that's fine. When you were talking about this motivational interviewing, it just kind of clicked in my head that a lot of times I'll be just talking to somebody, and in the current relationship I'm in, I have conversations with her that I never really had with anyone else ever. And then sometimes I'll be going through some stuff, and then wait a minute, or she'll be basically being you, kind of asking me these questions, and then I'll say something that's like, wait a minute, I just said that is the answer. What just came to me out of my subconscious or whatever, just blurted it out, and then wait a minute, I actually said that, and then I just take that and we'll dig a little deeper, and but it seems like that's the whole goal that you have during
100%.
That process.
100%. It's digging a little deeper, continuing to ask, what's underneath that? What's underneath that? What's underneath that? Going deep to the core of really what's keeping us from living our purpose, from shining our authentic light, from doing that thing that we really want to do, or letting go of that thing that's holding us back. There's something in there that wants to be revealed. And that's why it gets so uncomfortable, because we're meant to change. We're meant to expand. Everything on the planet is always expanding and changing. And when we're stuck in a habitual pattern that's not serving us, it gets really uncomfortable.
So during your recovery process, through your time in the woods and in the trailer and stuff, did religion have any, prayer have anything, any helpfulness in your journey there?
I will say prayer definitely is something as part of my practice, but I don't pray to something or worship something outside of myself. God lives within me. It lives within all of us, is my belief. So I don't practice any religious beliefs. I am a very spiritual being. I believe that all religious teachers point us to the same thing, which is the light that is within.
Amen, sister.
That's pretty profound. I kind of almost want that on a plaque on the wall.
As long as you say that I quoted it, no.
I like that.
I mean, like I said earlier, I've just kind of in the last year or so kind of opened myself up to a transformation. And something else you just said that I've never told anybody, this is going to be world changing here for me, because when you said, maybe it's getting bullied in school, I never really got bullied in school except by one guy, and he used to terrorize me on the bus. And I've never told a soul this till this minute. I think about it all the time, though.
Interesting.
That when he caught me one time, he wanted had like $2 on me or something. We're talking like this is 19. I'm 60 years old, so I was probably 10. So like
74.
1974 ish, and he was just an asshole. And he was gonna come and he was gonna take my money, and he told me he was gonna do it after. And then I remember he confronted me on when I had a paper route,
Mm-hmm.
and then I just ran. I mean, he never got a penny, but I just ran, and I was like, and I always had that, and I still to this day remember that guy, and he's still in my head from. I mean, I never really thought about it till you just said it, but it's something I refer to every now and then when I hear someone about bullying. That's what pops in my head. See something on TV, an article, or read something, and
What does it bring up emotionally?
I don't know, man. It's like kind of some shame that I didn't have some backbone and stand up to this guy, or I was weak.
Well, our grandfather always told us not to fight, so there's that too.
Yeah, I guess, but I wasn't really ever that tough guy anyway. Neither one of us were. But
it's fascinating how those experiences can stay with us. And it may not be holding you back or allowing you to hit rock bottom, but just that acknowledgement, like you had just said, around the shame or the regret of not standing up for yourself is, can essentially be trapped. Everything's energy. Thoughts, emotions are all energy. And so that's where a little EFT tapping round would come in to unblock those and see what wants to come up that's underneath that.
Well, I'm glad you brought it up. So what exactly is EFT tapping? Rick had I've experienced it before.
Yeah, I walked into gyms today, and a half hour or so before you came on, and I'm like, man, I'm really excited about talking to Kimberly. And I was going through her website, and there's this tapping EFT, and then Jim's wife Abby says, "Oh, that stuff's amazing," and she kind of gave me the 15-second, but that's my entire training on the topic, so I'm kind of looking forward to hear about it.
Yeah, so the practice was introduced to me, as I mentioned earlier, before I had kicked the alcohol. And so essentially, we have energy meridians running throughout our entire body. And these energy meridians can accumulate trapped energy, blocked energy, if not felt and processed. So, for example, being bullied in school, being abused as a child, words that are spoken to you, shame on you is something I heard as a child a lot. So those feelings can get trapped. If we're not fully feeling and processing our emotions, even as adults, but especially as children, then they're still trapped somewhere in our energetic field. So we have these meridians that run throughout our entire body. This practice is very similar to what acupressure does. So acupuncture, right? So acupuncture goes in with the needles and it releases the chi, the flow of energy throughout our body. This is very similar, but we're using acupressure. So we're using our own hands by tapping to alleviate the chi, to release the unblocked emotions. Now, when you pair that with narrative like cognitive behavioral therapy, right? So now we're going to bring the story to the surface. It allows us to unblock that trapped energy. So these meridians that run throughout our body, we have particular spots that we can tap on that will have the most benefit. So for example, we have them on top of our head. We have them here on the karate chop. We have them here just on the inside of our eyes. We have them on the external, kind of where the temple is here. We have them underneath our eye here, on our upper lip, on our chin. There's a couple of different places on the chest. You can tap on the collarbone area, or I actually, if I'm on the fly and I'm feeling a bit triggered, just in the center of the chest. You have them also here underneath your arm. You have them along your fingers as well, except for the ring finger. It doesn't actually have one. And then you have one here on your gamut point. Now, there may be others, but those are particularly the ones that I like to work with. And so when we're working with EFT, what we want to do is first establish what the problem is. What is it? What is it? Is it a story? Is it an emotion? Are you feeling lack? Are you feeling lack of self-worth? Are you stuck in like scarcity energy? Whatever the it is really what we want to first uncover and acknowledge the fear behind it. We want to acknowledge the story behind it. So we build a narrative, right? So I do that first by coaching, actually. So I have, a conversation with the individual I'm working with, and we bring all the narrative to the surface. And then we do a tapping round and we speak to that narrative. We speak to the emotions that are attached. We're essentially stirring the pot. We want to bring up all of the emotions that are causing this discord. So we bring all that to the surface through a couple of tapping rounds. And what that's doing is acknowledging the story, acknowledging the emotion. And by tapping, we're able to unblock that blockage from our energy field. I generally take a scale with the individual. So how are they feeling before and how are they feeling after? Once we acknowledge that and we do a couple of rounds on the issue, the fear, whatever it is that's keeping them stuck, then we go ahead and I can do, energy cord cutting, which I think is really important too. So then we tap around the energy cords that are kind of reaffirming this story that we keep telling ourselves, whether it's that we're not enough or we never have enough or whatever it might be. And then once that, you don't want to do the affirmation round until you feel liberated, until you feel like you have shifted some kind of energy. And then we'll do some tapping around what we want to call in. So I wonder what it would feel like to be, liberated from this or to fully embody self-love. Right. So we want to be able to feel that energy that space that we've just created. We want to be able to invite in the opposite, right? Because there's an opposite of every emotion. There's an opposite of, unworthiness is worthiness. So we want to invite in that worthiness. Does that give you a better understanding?
Yeah, somewhat. I haven't experienced it, so I would think that until you,
Of course.
it would be difficult until I would attempt to complete that.
Of course. And it's really important too. It's not kind of a one and done practice. It's something that over time has the greatest benefit. I'll do workshops for an hour with individuals and they feel the immense benefits, but if you do it over time and continuously, like anything in life, consistency is key. You can have profound shifts with this. I hold this practice a key component in my healing and being able to acknowledge what I witnessed as a child or how I felt as a child. Things that I hadn't even remembered were able to come to the surface.
Any more questions about EFT?
No, that's pretty. I'm gonna have to check it out. So, is there like a Kimberly Flear YouTube channel where you do some tapping or something like that?
No, there isn't, but there will
be.
No, there isn't, but there will be. That's definitely in the works for the coming year.
And when you do these tapping things with, you said you'll do workshops and whatnot. Are they online or?
Yeah, all of the work I do is online. Yeah.
It seems like that's the common theme now.
So have you ever published any of those workshops?
I don't record them for anonymity purposes.
Okay.
Unless I got consent from the individuals who are participating, I don't generally record them.
Okay.
I want to go take you way back for a second. So you said after you hit rock bottom that you asked for help.
Yeah.
Were you asking like a higher power, the universe, a specific person? So I don't know why that's stuck in my mind.
No, that's cool. This is kind of a cool story. So I lived in New Zealand, as I mentioned earlier, for about 5 years. And in that experience, I think it was in about 2012, I had met this very eccentric psychic medium woman who I ended up she was referred to me. I was going through some troubles at the time, and she was referred to me. And I went to see her, and we did this really powerful inner child healing work. Now, this is way before I had considered sobriety, or way before I had even got into these kind of modalities. And we did this, and then she said some things to me about my future. And at the time, none of them made sense. And I thought, this lady's off her rocker. And sure enough, like months later, the things that she had said to me manifested and came into reality. And I was like, wow, incredible. Time went on, like 8 years had passed. But I always remembered this woman. And so when I knew I needed help, I remembered her. And of course, because everything's online, I looked her up and I found her. And we bartered back and forth because their services were really expensive and all my money was going to cocaine. So I was like, I can't afford your services. I don't have any money for you, you know. And so, you know, we didn't talk for a while, and then I would come back because, you know, I was feeling sorry for myself. And then finally she said to me, how much do you spend on a bag of cocaine? Why don't you put that towards your healing? Like, it was an aha moment of, right, well, maybe I actually can afford this. And she ended up working out a deal with me. She was very gracious, and we came up with a plan. And she said, you're going to meet with me twice a week for 3 months. Like, you're doing, like, you're going to show accountability. And so that's where that, and we worked together for, she's still in my orbit today. I still am very, very close with her. I love the woman dearly. Marianne is her name. And so we worked together, and I showed up no matter what state of being I was in, no matter what I did the night before, I showed up, and I kept tapping, and I kept meditating, and I kept, you know, taking in what I was learning. And so I hold her in high regard for saying yes to me and for cutting me that deal. And I asked her years later, why did you, because she cut her prices down quite substantially for me. And I asked her years later, why did you do that for me? And she said, because I saw something in you. And, you know, I remember saying to her, you know, once I had got sober and we were still working together, I hope that I can help one person. I remember one day I was on the bathroom floor calling 911. I overdosed. It was a horrible experience. I had 911 ambulance on one phone, and I had her on the other phone. And I just remember the support that I got from her was something I had never received from anyone in my experience. And I said to her years later, you know, if I can just help one person like you helped me, then I have lived my purpose. This just makes me emotional thinking about it, because I've helped so many individuals. I receive messages all the time from people saying, like, I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for the support that you've given me. And thank you for everything you do. And so anyone listening, you know, like, follow that light. I think we all have purpose on this planet. And especially now with the turmoil and the chaos, it's now is more important than ever for us to stand up and to walk our truth and to speak our truth and to shine our light, because so many people need it. So
absolutely.
Well, and it's like, you know, she saw something in you. She gave you a deal. Here you are years later, still friends, and, you know, sounds like lifelong confidants. And just through you, how many people she's helped.
incredible.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. I know part of your deal is breathing and breath work, which I've really didn't know too much about, but over the holidays we've had some trouble getting gas because, you know, people are busy living their lives during the holidays. So Jim threw out an idea. He's totally surprised me last week and says, "Hey, we're doing an hour on breathing." I'm like, "All right, whatever." And but you taught me that box breathing
Square
technique,
breathing.
and what a difference in my
using it. I love
in
that.
my amount of spastic head case. Just it really can tone my whole physiology down.
Add a little tapping to that. Just add a little tapping. Like, it's these practices, isn't it wild that our breath is with us every moment, every step, and we can use it as a healing modality. Same with our hands. They're the most powerful tools we have. And these practices are breath work has been, again, one of the most transformative practices I've embodied. And it's not something I do. I definitely do not consider myself a breathwork practitioner. I'm very cautious of using it. It's something that I believe it's kind of like the Wild West out there. And sometimes you can do more harm than good if people are not fully supported and are not fully integrating their breathwork journey. I just want to put that disclaimer out there for those that are practicing. Box breathing at home, brilliant. Conscious breathing, a little Wim Hof on YouTube, amazing. But when getting into ceremony and doing these breathwork journeys, it's just like plant medicine. This is where our discernment really has to come in, because sometimes these practices are very expansive and can leave us in a place that is unexpected.
Well,
but I participate in breathwork quite often.
I've also been trying to get into meditation and stuff like that. And that, I don't find that the easiest thing in the world for me to get in that headspace. I do know that it takes, from experiences I've had in the past, it takes just practice. You just have to get better at it. But with that breathing technique, it literally takes my mind out of everything. But I can do that when I'm driving. Mm-hmm. And I don't lose it. I don't hyperventilate. But I can just focus on nothing and still be alert. So I don't know. I've just found that really
over
useful.
time, consistency, like you're building that muscle. Anything that it's first it's an intention, and then it's a behavior, but then it becomes a habit and a consistent habit, and then a practice, and you're building that muscle. And what you're doing is, especially incorporating with your meditation practice, it just becomes easier and easier. And meditation is something that a lot of people have this idea that meditation is stopping your thoughts altogether. And it's like,
good luck with that, right?
Standing in front of a train coming at you 70 miles an hour, putting your hand out like you're going to stop it. It's about becoming the witness. It's about becoming the observer of your thoughts, watching them pass by and not attaching to them. I think that's one of the greatest teachings I learned with meditation is it's not about a quiet mind. It's about becoming the witness, because so often we attach to the thoughts and then we're off in story, right? So then we're off in past or future, analyzing, problem solving. We're not in the present moment. I believe it's all really what the intention behind it is, allowing us to be in the present moment and to be aware of the present moment.
So that's when you say witness, mm-hmm. Witness, like you try to step back in your own head and just watch what's going on. Mm-hmm. Is that
correct? So become the awareness.
Because I end up flying over here, and then I catch myself talking about, I bought the, I gotta go.
Your shopping list or what you gotta do
whatever,
later. Of course, that's natural.
I need to go buy a pineapple later or something.
Yeah, and so becoming the witness means recognizing that you're off on that thought pathway and then bringing it back to the breath would be a beautiful tool, right? Not getting mad at yourself that you went off into the future or into the past, but just bringing yourself back into the present moment. It's about becoming the witness. We are awareness. That's consciousness.
And I noticed that when I do start flailing off again, that's because but if I go back to the box breathing, then I'm just really focused on 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I can just focus on being unfocused, kind of.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Brilliant.
It is brilliant. Yeah. Every time I hear that, you say, add a little tapping. I think of Happy Gilmore. Just tap it in. Just tap it in.
A little tappy tap.
Tap.
Well, and what you said about being accountable with Marianne, that she's in New Zealand, correct?
She is. I think she's in Australia now, but yeah.
Well, you're accountable to Marianne, and it seems like more and more I said, Jim's heard this 20 times, I've said it, that over the past 6, 7, 8, how long have we been doing the podcast now? Coming up on a year.
May 24th.
Really? That was our first one?
Yeah.
So we're like 9 months. To be, I would have gave up on this months and months ago, but he kept accountable. And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have ever done this by myself. But he would held me accountable. Hey, you got to be at 6:30. Now it's on my calendar. My world revolves around Jim's podcast schedule. But if I wouldn't have had that accountability,
our podcast schedule.
But no, I get that. But if you wouldn't have held me accountable, I'm not meeting Kimberly Flear.
Yeah.
I'm not taking away what you're going to give me. And I'm not going to meet Catherine Corona that we met 2-3 weeks ago, who really has a huge influence on the way I think about things. You wouldn't have met Risa, my friend from, and I've talked to Jim a couple of times in the past that there's a few of my favorites that we've talked to over the months. And I really think it would be so cool to get someone like you, Kim, my friend Risa, who's in the same mindset as you, and Catherine Corona, who I just am infatuated with. I loved her to death. Just because just what she said, I don't know, just helps. So what I get out of JP holding me accountable to this podcast is weekly improvements, but we do it twice a week, where
Well,
I
this
would
is the
just
thing.
never have done that myself.
It's on my master
Accountability.
plan for your self-transformation.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, man, for bringing me in. Because I mean, I wouldn't say I lived a wild and totally crazy life like you, but I have my issues. You know,
all do.
I drink a bit. I still do. I'm not sober. I don't plan to be. Jim's off and on at will. I don't really. I'm just in a journey right now of
You
figuring
tried
out
to
what
do sober
trust.
October. You made it.
Yeah, and it
almost
lasted
8
a week
days.
and a half. But then and I don't have to get all into that right now. But just doing this a couple times a week is cool and fun,
Yeah.
and you're awesome, and you need to get out there and about and get
going and getting
like
and
get,
shining my own light. And again,
yeah,
like
really,
this is
because people
this
get a
is
lot out about what your story.
oh,
And
totally,
it's just
totally.
cool.
And this is like you had just said, it's a journey. I could, you know, of course I want to conquer it all, the YouTube channel, the coaching practice, the whole, all of it. But it's a journey, right? And allowing it to unfold as it's meant to is really important. I have come up against the wall of resistance many times, and what I've learned is to walk away. You can't create from a place of resistance.
True.
So I'm allowing things to unfold as they're meant to, and they all will. I have a whole lifetime of this to go. And another thing I really love that you're highlighting is that accountability piece and how important it is to have someone in our corner that we can go to. I have a mentor, I have a coach. You know, just it's not Marianne anymore. As I've grown, I now, you know, I have a business mentor that I work with. And I think everybody should have somebody in their life to go to for that accountability, for that reason of growth and expansion. I think it's, yeah, we're beings of connection.
And you mentioned something earlier too about, feeling this or seeing the signs. I think Jim said something about feeling what the universe brings to you. And I've really noticed in reflecting back on things and just a couple of recent experiences in the last few months, where if I don't really know that I see a sign that or feel something, man, maybe this isn't the best thing, but I really want to do this and I'm going to go do it, and blah, blah, blah. If you don't recognize that there's some negative energy pushing you in the wrong direction, you have to stop and stand back when you see that and say, do I really just want to push through this wall? Or do I maybe want to take a better look at this idea and realize that this is a sign of the universe that not to go this route. And the most recent one was, Jim knows about it, that little episode we had several months back at home.
I'm not sure which one.
Anyway, yeah, I'll tell you afterwards.
Okay.
And not that I want to keep it from you, I just don't want to get blasted out there. But anyway, it was a really bad day and night, but it all started by not adhering to, man, I don't want to go do this. I shouldn't go do this. No, come on, let's go. I didn't listen to her. I didn't listen to what I was feeling. I'm like, let's go do this. And then it all turned out bad. And
my question becomes, what did you learn?
I learned what I just said, to recognize those things. And I have not acted on impulses I want when I see those signs since then. And it's almost like trying when you do go against those feelings into something you think you're smarter than, it's just like swimming upstream.
Yeah.
You can do it for a while, but eventually you're going to get washed downstream and you're going to get.
And you might do it a few times. You might find yourself in a loop of doing the same thing. And again, what that's teaching us is there's a lesson there. The universe, we're never punished. We're not bad, or there's nothing out against us. It's there to teach us that there's something to learn.
Yeah.
You know, I believe that life happens for us, not to us.
Mm-hmm. And it's, you know, you're tuning into that still small voice, and it's just recognizing it and listening to it. You can call it intuition or whatever you want. But yeah, it's often when we ignore that, it's like, oh, shoot. Or even you're about to leave the house. Oh, I should grab that. But something was telling you grab it, and then you didn't grab it. And then you get to where you're going and you needed it. And it's like, why didn't I listen?
I have so many beautiful moments of listening to the intuition of grabbing that thing or doing that thing. And like the world speaks to us in synchronicities and signs and symbols. And when you can be in flow, like I used to wonder where the fun was in life without alcohol and drugs. Like, where's the fun? What is the point? And now I've discovered that being in flow and aligning myself and co-creating with the universe is so much fun. Anyway, a lot of, you know, I know it, you have to experience it. And the stories I have and the things that I have, just the aha moments are way more profound and fun and curious than any party I have been to. So yeah, I'll keep dancing with the universe.
I love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Dancing. Yeah, well, hey, this was a wonderful conversation.
Yeah, really.
Really enjoyed you being on our show, sharing this time with us. It's just a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And I'm going to talk Jim into the All-Star special. We'll invite you back on for a round table with the.
I'm just wondering how that'll go with all the different mics and cameras and just.
I think it'd be okay. Yeah. They do it on CNN all the time.
Think they got a little better setup than us?
No, but a little bit maybe.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you so much.
Yeah, Kimberly, it's been awesome talking to you. Great to meet you.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, really great to meet you guys too. Thanks for having me on. It's fantastic.
Happy to. We'd love to have you back sometime.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
Any books or anything in the future? The YouTube videos Rick mentioned?
All of it. All of it.
You're bringing it all.
Keep follow me on social, create my website, reach out, and yeah, just stay in touch, and it will all unravel and unfold in perfect divine timing as it's meant to.
As it should.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks again.
Thank you.
All right. See you, Kimberly.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Take care. So if you just listen to this podcast and you appreciate the content and the work that we're doing, we would love your support. Look in the comment section of this episode. Subscribe, rate us, comment. This gets our podcast in front of other listeners. And if you noticed, we don't have advertisers. For the cost of a cup of coffee, you can help keep it this way. Become a supporter right now. We'd appreciate it. I'm Jim the Yogi.
I'm Rick the Beachman.
Peace.